I'm Megan Murphy, and I'm here to talk to you about casual sex. The battle of the sexes, we've been talking about it for decades now, but it seems to have really reached its peak. We have all found ourselves trapped in this culture we were told would liberate us, but it feels like we are more at odds with the opposite sex than ever before and more confused than ever about what relationships mean, sex means, what marriage means. The sexual revolution freed us up to have casual sex, supposedly without consequence. The reality, though, is that sex does remain consequential. When we talk about consequence free sex, we're generally thinking about pregnancy. So, the advent of the birth control pill, as well as easier access to abortion, was our apparent liberation to have this supposed casual sex, a thing that really couldn't exist prior. There were very serious consequences. The truth is that sex is still not casual. We just tell ourselves it is. Brett Weinstein noted on X recently that the sexual revolution disrupted something fundamental. He explains sex, it turns out, is far more important than we understood, and making it cheap unleashed a cascade of negative effects. Among the worst, men and women have now become unsympathetic and grotesque in each other's eyes. In the past, women had to operate as gatekeepers. Men tried to access sex, women prevented them from doing so without commitment. I'm speaking in generalities, of course, there was middle ground. Sexual urges did get the best of us in the past at times, just much less so than they do now. For women, it was important to ensure the men they allowed sexual access to would stick around. Becoming a single mother in the past was an incredibly challenging path, even a dangerous one. We didn't have the options we do today to operate independently as women and as mothers. Single motherhood is still less than ideal, but it is doable in a way that it wasn't for most of history. Today, we have no visible reason to gatekeep sex. We can prevent and end pregnancies should we wish, and we can also choose single motherhood if we wish. Again, not ideal, but we can do it. But what impact has all this choice and freedom had on relationships between men and women? Things look rather bleak, honestly. The situationship thrives. It's almost all I see in my Instagram feed. Maybe that's a hint. Porn consumption is through the roof, and apparently the younger generations aren't even dating. People still crave connection and relationships, though, and women still do crave love and commitment. It is what we really want, whether we admit to it or not. What the sexual revolution really offered was the freedom for men to act without consequence or accountability. And it told women this was good for them too. But the problem is that casual sex is a freedom that really is only desirable for men. Women, despite what we might tell ourselves or what we might like to believe, simply are not wired for endless one-night stands. It's not satisfying on a sexual or an emotional level. Men might feel nothing after sleeping with a woman and never seeing her again, but women don't have that same experience usually. They tend to feel used, discarded, disrespected, and unfulfilled. This might sound like sexist stereotyping, but it's actually rooted in biology. Women are wired to bond through sex. Our brains are flooded with oxytocin, the love hormone, which promotes not just bonding between heterosexual partners, but between mother and baby. It creates feelings of closeness, intimacy, trust, and attachment. It very much contributes to that falling in love feeling. Men might scoff at women who attach to men who've insisted they don't want anything serious, babe. But that's not how women operate. You can be as rational as you like, but if you're sleeping with us, we are most likely bonding to you and will want more. Forcing ourselves to disconnect and remain unattached is just that, forced, and most often a lie. We compartmentalize to avoid pain and generally don't actually end up avoiding that pain at all. So, who is to blame for all of this? There has to be somebody. When I shared Weinstein's observation that sex is naturally collaborative for women, men have a collaborative mode and a predatory one, I added that by allowing men casual sex, and I put in parentheses, sex is not casual, especially not for women, we as a society have allowed them to be at their most selfish, acting without care and accountability. Women hate men as a result, and men think women are whores. It's all very sad. The truth is that when sex had more clear consequences, men were forced to accommodate women's desire for commitment much more so than they are today. As Weinstein explains, the sexual revolution caused women to drop their guard, rewarding men for predatory behavior. Women are now following suit. This is why men and women increasingly disgust each other. So women don't trust men. They think they're predatory dogs who will just use them for sex and discard them, offering them zero respect or commitment. And men think women are sluts and gold diggers who choose men only for superficial reasons, ignoring the masses of sex-starved geeks. The second part is mostly a delusion fed to bitter, lonely men by other bitter, lonely men with little to no real-world experience with women. But if you only operated online, you'd be forgiven for believing such a thing because your world is awash in OnlyFans chicks thotting themselves out to anyone who will pay. It's no wonder these guys think this way about women. The truth is not that women love casual sex and pornography. The thotting in particular brings little satisfaction beyond a temporary dopamine hit. This is the generation of women trained to view superficial validation from social media as the route to self-confidence and validation. They've learned through porn culture that sexuality and sexiness is about appearances, about how men, usually strange men on the internet, see you, rather than it being about actual sexuality, actual sexual pleasure, satisfaction, and sexual empowerment. Posing in sexual ways for the camera, for those of you who have no imagination or haven't tried it yourselves, is not actually sexy. It's tedious and uncomfortable. The sexual revolution and third wave feminism convinced women they could and should have sex like men because the alternative, purity culture, was oppressive to women. But surely we can be truthful and find something less extreme than either depravity or purity culture. I couldn't, in good faith, suggest that women remain virgins till marriage. I'd be a hypocrite in order to respect themselves and expect more from men than what they're offering now. Men, after all, are not the only ones with sex drives. And getting married to someone you've never slept with before seems like a risk I'm not sure I recommend all women take. I do, though, think that women need to be honest with themselves about what many men will get away with if allowed to, and be honest with themselves about what they really want and really need. Casual sex might seem like an easy or fun idea, but in reality, it's pretty empty, void of emotional or sexual satisfaction in the long term. It's very easy to blame women for the problem so many heterosexual men and women are facing today. And as a result, many do. This was indeed the response to my post from many men online. Why is everything men's fault? How come women are never accountable for anything? Women wanted this. They asked for it. This was the refrain I heard. To be clear, I do think that women hold much of the responsibility for this dynamic. They do need to take responsibility and stop encouraging men's predatory behavior in this sense. Don't hook up with guys you meet on dating apps. Don't tell men you need nothing from them beyond casual sex every once in a while they do what they want the rest of the time. Don't send nudes. Come on, you guys. Don't send nudes. I mean, in general, it's pretty risky, but definitely not to men that you don't know or who aren't your long-term partner. Don't tell yourself or the rest of the world you're satisfied by casual, non-committed sex when that's not true. Stop posting porny photos so that you feel validated by strange perverts on the internet who don't care about you at all. Stop telling men you're cool at strip clubs and porn, and with their following OnlyFans girls online. Have a frickin' boundary. Easier said than done, I know. In a world where this has become the norm, young women feel this is simply what's done and what has to be done to compete, I guess. Young women expect that all men use porn and they claim to enjoy it themselves. They think that sending nudes is the way to get men to like them. They apparently think it's normal to sleep with a man they just met on a dating app. They think that OnlyFans is a non-shameful career choice. We're now working backwards in a culture that is so seeped in toxic depravity, that has so normalized so-called sex work, it seems impossible to undo. Men have a role here as well, to be clear, not just for women and society, but for themselves. The loneliness and bitterness of young men today is actually of their own making. Holed up alone in their basements, making pornography their only sexual outlet and primary relationship to the opposite sex, they've imagined women to be whores who hate them. They masturbate to women they know they can never get, but who they also don't respect because they're sluts, and fail to understand, for lack of exposure, that most women aren't like this. Most women are just normal women who want normal relationships with normal men. They're not seeking out wealthy CEOs and chads. They don't need a freaking yacht. They aren't seeking a man who will pay their way while they lie about in a mansion and sleep with the pool boy. That is a fantasy. Women still do want happy marriages and families, but they need men to want this as well. How can you demand a good woman when you aren't good yourself? How can you demand a girlfriend that isn't a whore when you choose to masturbate to the degradation and abuse of women? What is she meant to think about you and that behavior? How is she meant to feel respected in bed when this is what you do behind her back? How can you say that you don't want a woman who degrades herself when all of your behavior shows that, yes, that is what you want? You don't like whores, but you frequent strip clubs or you pay for sex? Okay. Men need to make themselves respectable if they're going to demand respectable women. And women do need to gatekeep if they want men to commit and to stop operating at their most base level. To be clear, I'm not suggesting I have been perfect in following the advice and observations I share here. I am learning from my own mistakes and the lies told to me as a young woman by third wave feminism. I wish I'd been told the truth rather than having been sold an ideology that rejected evolutionary biology in favor of faux empowering mantras. But now that we're here, what can we do but be honest and attempt to correct course? The lies both sexes tell themselves, that women are just like men, don't need commitment, security, love, or intimacy, has turned them into enemies of one another. Women aren't happy and neither are men, so why keep up the charade?